Today we are going to review the book Living Science for Class 7. This is a revised edition by Ratna Sagar publishers, and authors are A.C. Sehgal and Mukul Sehgal. And you also get digital support using the Ratna Sagar app active. This is what you will find the details over here. So let's start. So this is the content of this book, and before I proceed, let me show you the NCRT book of class 6. Now this is before the rationalization, so this book is before the rationalization of this book of the NCRT syllabus, and here you will find all the chapters. So the first chapter, nutrition in plants, nutrition in animals both, and fiber to fabric, which is now not there in the rationalized syllabus, you will also find over there. Same, weather, climate and adaptation, this chapter, this has been excluded in the new rationalized syllabus. Now one very interesting point to note is that the structure of matter chapter, you will not find this in the NCRT. However, this is the very first chapter of chemistry. Okay, and we need to understand the structure of matter, the concept of elements, compounds, mixtures. A little bit somewhat has been covered in class 6, but here they have very given this in a very comprehensive way. And so this is the first chapter of chemistry, followed by acid, bases and salts, and physical and chemical changes. So in class 7 there are 3 chemistry chapters over here. Regarding physics, here you will see only one chapter on heat, which has been covered in 2 expanded chapters, and they have covered it very nicely. The first is regarding heat and expansion, and then we have the transfer of heat by conduction, convection and radiation. This is covered in the second chapter. So these two belongs to the physics part, followed by, let me now remove this book, followed by motion and time over here, and then light. Okay, so this, and then finally electric current and effects. So how many chapters? Physics, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 physics chapters. Okay, regarding biology, here you will find again biology including EVS. So this two, nutrition in plants, nutrition in animals, then respiration, transportation of materials in plants and animals. These 2 chapters are there as well. However, regarding the, here you will find the soil chapter in both these books. You see, respiration in organisms, this chapter, then transportation chapter is also there. Then we have reproduction in plants, which is also there in the NCRT book over here, you can see. Then motion and time. So overall 18 chapters. However, this book has got 20 chapters. So this means that basically this was the extra chapter, first chapter of chemistry, and this is the expanded chapter. So these two are additions in the Ratna Sagar book Living Science 7 compared to your NCRT class 7 book. Okay, so let's now start with the very first chapter. So nutrition in plants. Now before we start the chapter, there's a visual appeal over here, a picture of leaf, and again on the table. Now before I start, in this chapter what you are going to study, this is how they have given in every chapter. Just before the start of the chapter, there is a box below the page where they will be talking about the entire coverage of the chapter. Now see how they have arranged. So a very first subtopic is in bold red capital letters, and then we have the entire section. This is very nicely written. Now you will notice how many colors inside the subsection. This subsection starts with the red bold font, then the important points are highlighted again in bold blue color, and then this part over here which is highlighted in slightly yellowish form. This is basically definition. So you will find this thing similarly in other sections as well. Here there is an important reaction using which shows the importance of chlorophyll. What happens? Carbon dioxide plus water in presence of chlorophyll and sunlight, it forms glucose and oxygen. Now the same pictures are present in your NCRT textbook. Okay, so it's not that they have given too much extra concepts. See over here, consider, see the same diagram over here, and this diagram and this diagram. Okay, so they have shown more or less the same coverage. However, compared to NCRT, the activity and the inferences are shown in a little bit better way compared to NCRT. And overall, you can see like this. So after this very first subsection covering nutrition and its types, autotrophic nutrition in plants, then 1 2 3 4 5 activities, we have got a small section oral questions. Okay, next subsection is on heterotrophic nutrition. You see diagrams, real life diagrams, as well as your flowchart type diagrams, both are there. Here also it is very important. In older times, in our generation, the books didn't have real life pictures, so it could not appeal much to the students. You have to look into other references to understand the concepts in real life. However, here you can see these books, they have upgraded into using real life pictures. Even NCRT nowadays have real life pictures of most of the topics. So now, after this entire second subsection, again we have got question section, fine. And then we have got some new words, like in English textbooks, vocabulary. Remember? So here you have got some new vocabulary words, definitions. It is important. It serves as a, what you can say, reference for also. Then you have a concept map or mind map of the entire chapter in a very simple way, not very detailed mind map. And then now you know, this is again a very detailed summary of the chapter, followed by the exercises. Now you see how many types of questions are there. First is a very simple, choose the appropriate answer, or MCQ type, very basic, 1 mark type. Then again, fill in the blanks type, very short answer, 1 word answer, followed by short answer type, 2 marks or 3 marks, where you have to answer in a very short, crisp, and to the point way, followed by long answer questions. And then you also have the HOTS questions. Now, mark my words, the questions in this book are very good, very standard, the very thought provoking questions. And then there is a very unique part, be a scientist part, sort of somewhat more compared to the HOTS questions. Here they will require you, this section will require you to think, and after thinking you have to ask your seniors, class teacher, tuition teacher, whosoever. Even you can do the search in the internet. What they want is, after understanding the entire chapter and going through this exercise, so now more or less you understand the concepts. Now think more than this chapter. Think little bit more, and this section is designed for that. Okay, also you have got enrichment activities like this. So, and there are some teachers notes, you can also read them. So this is how the entire chapter is. Now let me show you a chapter on chemistry. So this is the first chapter on chemistry that I was talking about, the structure of matter. Okay, so what is matter made up of? This is the very first subsection. And here, after that, we have the concepts of element and compound, going from elements to compounds, then mixtures and all that, followed by the activities, Then difference between elements and compounds. Well, you find this thing in most of the textbooks. And then your very interesting oral questions. So now the second subsection on for symbols and formulae. This you have to write down in your copy while memorizing. This is important. Then we have formulas for some of the compounds. This stuff somewhat is much more extra compared to what NCERT is given in its later chapters. But this is important. You have to understand this. This is a very important prerequisite for chemistry in class 7. Okay. If you compare this to ICSE textbooks, you will find this entire chapter is covered in even more detail in ICSE books, like the Selena books. Okay, and then finally we have got chemical equations and very brief discussion on balancing of chemical equations, which is covered in more details in class 10. You will find that first chapter of class 10. Okay, then again oral questions, again new vocabulary, and then very important chapter summary, to the point chapter summary. See, point wise chapter summary is here, and then very small, crisp mind map. Students, it is important that after studying, you close the book and then try to draw the mind map in your copy. Try to see whether you overall remember the entire chapter. This is the idea of writing the mind map, so that the entire concept of this entire chapter you can recollect in a better way. Now, exercises again, MCQ type exercises, fill in the blanks exercises, and then short answer type, long answer type, HOTS, again be a scientist, and followed by enrichment activities. Very nice, very good questions. It's not very hard. Okay, now let me show you. Okay, this chapter on physics. So one chapter on more or less EVS and biology, one chapter on chemistry, now one chapter on physics. So heat and its effects. This chapter, you see, a little bit history over there. So expansion. So again activities. Here you can see expansion around us, all this stuff, and then the concept of temperature, and followed by the oral questions over here. Again, new words and brief mind map of the chapter. And let me just show you the same chapter in the NCERT book. Okay, just a second. Okay, the same chapter in the NCERT book. Okay, hot and cold, measuring temperature. It is very nicely written, where the Paheli asks questions to you. Paheli and Bojo, these two fellow will ask you questions. Now, unlike this concept of going through a concept in a story-like way and then asking questions, which is covered in the NCERT book, here you will not get such a thing. You will not get Paheli or Bojo type characters asking you questions. But overall, a brief summary of the entire chapter, most important concepts is there. So I will ask you students to read both NCERT first and then later on this book, Living Science 7. So it is important. You will get a very good, clear understanding of the chapter in this way. Sometimes the questions of NCERT are not very easy to moderate type. However, here you will get even more variety of questions in this book. Okay. And if you do Google search, sometimes you will find answers to some of these questions. This is also an add-on to you. Okay, so now if you will if you are wondering, okay, so good about this book, now if you want to go beyond this book, what to do? Well, let me tell you. Basically, I'll be asking you first to cover the science NCRT textbook, then Living Science 7, followed by exemplar, science exemplar book for more additional questions. Let me just briefly show it to you. Say, for example, the very first chapter, yeah, the nutrition in plants chapter. You see, here the first is the MCQ type questions that we have seen in Living Science as well. Now, very short answer questions, and then we have got long answer questions. So, little bit more coverage. So, this book you will need along with this book to cover your theory, basic theory, plus little bit more questions. And or you can go over this book as well, but I will ask you, if you have time, first go through this book, then this book, and then this book for additional questions. You will not be betrayed by your efforts, I'll assure you. This will be a very good coverage for you students.